to my channel. My name is Laura. This is my second ever YouTube video. I uploaded one towards the end of last year and then I just dropped off the face of the earth with it. So goal for this year is to stay consistent. I'm out of breath from setting everything up and it's literally my phone and a light, and somehow that was enough exertion for me. So what's my goal with this channel? Excellent question. I just want to be one of your go-to comfort creators. I just want to hang out and provide a cozy corner of the internet where you can come for a bit of company and we can just hang out, chat about books, go for a coffee and do cool stuff. My favourite YouTube videos are the videos that you can just have on in the background. You can read your book, you can scroll through your phone, and it just feels like you're on FaceTime to a friend and they're updating you about life, and it's just low-key vibes. So that's what we're going for when I've got my breath back apparently. So I've included some clips from a trip that we did to Hardwick Hall. I run a book club in my local town and we were reading the Bess of Hardwick book. I think it's by Mary S. Lovell. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. And it's basically Bess of Hardwick's autobiography. Not autobiography, her biography. If Bess had somehow written an autobiography in the 1500s then, that would have been amazing. How do we feel about kombucha, guys? These, you've probably seen these around. It's the Remedy kombucha. They were on buy one, get one half price in Holland and Barrett. So I thought I'd give it a go. I don't know, they're all right. It's absolutely fine. Maybe if it was a bit more chilled. God, I'm thirsty. So yeah, Hardwick Hall, recommend. It's a National Trust property. So if you've got a National Trust membership, then it's definitely worth checking out. I think it was either £16 or £19 for a ticket to do like the house and everything. And there is an old hall, well, not connected to it, but like over the road, and that burnt down, so it's just ruins now. And then they rebuilt Hardwick Hall, and the old hall that is the ruins, I'm sure that's English heritage. So if you are an English heritage member, why is that so hard to say? I'm sure that you can get into both properties for free. Please double check that. I'm not sure if you can get into the old hall with your National Trust membership, but it'd seem silly if you couldn't, so have a look. We loved it. We're a bunch of book nerds anyway. We are history nerds. We want to learn all the stuff, learn all the facts, and we love to take our cute little pictures. So we had a very good time. And then the rest of this week has been absolutely fine. I went to town this morning. I met my brother for a coffee, which was very sweet. I refrained from buying books because I want to do a little bit of book shopping next week, which I'll take you along for. I desperately want to buy The Lamb by Lucy Rose. I think it comes out on Thursday, the 30th of January. And so I'm going to go to Waterstones in the morning, buy it, go to a coffee shop and start to read it, and then come home and spend the rest of the weekend reading it, hopefully. So that's my little plan for next week. I thought that we could just talk about books for a little bit. I thought I'd update you on what I'm currently reading and what I've read so far this month. It's currently the 25th of January and I'm on book number 3. So the first book that I read was actually an ARC copy. I read Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. So I requested a copy of that on NetGalley and I really wanted to read it for a couple of reasons. Reason number one for wanting to read Hungerstone is that it's based on the novel Carmilla. That is the novel that is said to have inspired Dracula, and it's a sapphic vampire novel. And so that was a big tick for me. I haven't seen Nosferatu yet, so if anybody has, please let me know if it's worth it. But I got sucked into the TikTok marketing for that film, and I love anything with vampires in it anyway, so Carmilla, tick. Reason number 2 for wanting to read Hungerstone is that it's set in the Peak District, and the Peak District is my home and my heart. I live a 10-minute drive away from the Peak District, and I am yet to find anywhere that invokes emotion in me like the Peak District does. So if you haven't visited us before, then please do. We have some of the most beautiful landscapes in the country, especially our heathered moorland, which is where the house in this book is situated. And then other bits that drew me to Hungerstone are the gothicness of it. I was promised a little bit of cannibalism, which you do get, sapphic vibes, vampire vibes, just a little bit of blood sucking here and there, you know what I mean? And it was very good. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. I definitely got the gothic vibes. I loved the house where it was set. I enjoyed the characters. I don't think it was anything too original. I felt like we've been on this journey before, perhaps, but I got everything that I was promised. It did become a little bit repetitive for me as well, and I would have liked to have seen more from Carmilla. But other than that, I enjoyed it, and like I say, I got what I was promised. Does what it says on the tin. So I do recommend that. I think that's coming out on the 13th of February. They are also doing a Waterstones event for the launch of that book, and the book is also set in Sheffield as well as the Peak District, because that's where the main character's husband works. He has some steelworks factories there. So I would love to try and get to that event. I need to try and get it out of the group chat with some bookish friends and see if we can do that. The second book that I finished this year was Bunny by Mona Awad. I decided to read this after picking out a prompt from my to-be-read jar, and the prompt was a book that you are intimidated by / scared of, and I'm very much intimidated by this book. It had been on my shelf for 2 or 3 years, and I don't know why I've not read it yet, because it's everything that I should enjoy. It's a little bit of dark academia, it's a little bit of horror, it's a little bit weird girl. I hadn't read anything by Mona before, so I had no idea what to expect, and I'm really struggling to pinpoint what this book is about. I simply do not have the analytical brain to be able to pick this apart in the way that it deserves, and it's so difficult to describe. If you have read this book, I read a theory when I'd finished it that the main character possibly has schizophrenia. That would explain a lot, but it doesn't explain everything, and I don't know how else to describe it. It's basically about a girl called Samantha. I just had to double check her name. And she is doing a fiction writing course at Warren University. And there is this clique of like the rich, popular girls that she has to share a workshop with. And so she doesn't like these girls because they're not her vibe, they're not her cup of tea, she doesn't hang out with them or socialise with them. But then one night, they invite her round to their house. They are doing, I can't remember what it's called, but they do this sort of like, I don't know, it's like their own little workshop to try and get like inspiration for their writing. And things get weird beyond that point. I thought I had this nailed as like a cult secret society sort of job, and I don't think I'm far off the mark, but it definitely doesn't explain everything. So I do recommend reading it if you like weird girl fiction. If you don't like weird girl fiction, maybe avoid this one, but it is still a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed Mona's writing. I would love to read Rouge by Mona, and that was sort of the inspiration for me finally picking this book. And I would still like to read Rouge, but you need to be in the mood to concentrate. So I definitely want to read it at some point. I've just noticed that the blurb says, blending sharp satire with fairy tale horror, Bunny is a spellbinding trip of a novel from one of fiction's most original voices. Mona is definitely an original voice, And this book is definitely a trip. So if you have read this, I would love to know what you thought. Do you even know what happened? Because I'm not sure that I do. And so my current read is Never Lie by Freida McFadden. This is one of our book club reads for January. So this is a thriller, and I didn't realise that it's Freida that writes the Housemaid series, and everybody's mad for that series, aren't they? But I've not read them. I think it's because, what's the other one? The Maid. We read The Maid for a book club read, I want to say last year, but it might even have been the year before, and I didn't like that. So when I saw The Housemaid, I thought it's going to be more of the same thing, and I can't be bothered. But this sounded like much more of a traditional thriller, and so I thought I'd give it a go. We've got a newlywed couple. They are going to view a house which is basically in the middle of nowhere. It's like a couple of miles from the nearest house. And they're also visiting in a snowstorm. They're supposed to be meeting their estate agent there, but there's no sign of the estate agent when they get to the house, and there's also no phone service. So they are basically stuck at this house in a snowstorm. And it turns out that the house belonged to a renowned psychiatrist who disappeared like a few years ago. So the couple are Trisha and Ethan, and Trisha is completely spooked out by this house. She does not want to be spending any amount of time there, really, let alone the night, and we're now rolling into the second night. But Ethan absolutely loves the place, and it's basically love at first sight, and he's like, yeah, we're going to live here, and he's planning out their future already. And Trisha discovers these cassette tapes, and they are recordings of the psychiatrist's sessions, like therapy sessions. The ethics are very questionable. I would say that's a no-no. But the psychiatrist reckoned that they needed to remember what was said in the sessions. They didn't take notes, they just recorded it. And apparently the patients were aware that they were recording. But it's still a bit of a red flag for me. So yeah, they're trapped in this house overnight, snowstorm. Then what happens? Right, so Trisha is convinced that there is someone else in the house, and things are getting a little bit intense. She's also listening back to these tapes because she's like, how have the police missed these? I can solve how the psychiatrist went missing. So that's what she's doing to keep herself occupied in the snowstorm. I am about 70% of the way through. I've got maybe about 50 odd pages left. You know when people say that they always predicted the plot twists, and you know people are like, oh, the book was so predictable, I saw that coming a mile off. I always get it wrong. I was so convinced that I had figured this out, and I got to the point the other night where I thought I'll just have a little bit of a read ahead. I wanted to see how long the next chapter was to see if it was worth staying up for. And I just might have skipped ahead a little bit and seen a couple of spoilers. I don't mind spoiling things for myself at all. If anything, I quite enjoy a little spoiler because it means that I don't have to wait around for the answers. So skipped ahead a little bit, saw a couple of spoilers, and I got it wrong. I got it wrong. And I just know that I'm going to go to book club and people are going to have figured this out and they're going to say how predictable it was. And I was so sure that I'd got this down. Looking back on it now, my theory couldn't have worked. Like, there was nowhere for my theory to go. Note to self is don't pursue a career as a detective because you're not very good at it. And then the final book that I wanted to talk to you about is Empire of the Vampire by Kristoff. This book, man, so we read this for Fantasy Book Club and I was so excited by it. It is everything that I would want in a fantasy novel. And I was enjoying it up until about 40% of the way through. And me and one of my friends DNF'd it. Everyone else at book club absolutely loved this. There were 3 of us that didn't enjoy it, and everyone else was raving about it and thinks that they're going to read the rest of the series. And it's made me get FOMO. I fell out with this book because, I'm going to say it, it's a bit misogynistic, casually so. It also sexualises children. I don't know. That does sound dramatic, and it is dramatic, and it is quite bad. There was something else that I didn't like about it either. It doesn't write women very well. I don't think so anyway. So there was a lot that got to me about this book, and I just wish that I could have taken it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because I was enjoying the story up until a certain point. I might see if I can find the quote to read you, where I just called it a day. I don't know if that's it. That's not it. I am not going to try and explain the premise of this book because I will do a terrible job and it will also take me ages. But basically, the male main character was in the infirmary. He'd got into a fight with a vampire, very badly injured, and so he's in the infirmary, and like where he's training is it's like a monastery, so there are nuns there who are training to be nuns, and one of them is the nurse in the infirmary, and she's done nothing. I think this is the first time that we've even been introduced to her, and she like walks in, and Gabriel's the main character, by the way, main male character, and Gabriel describes her as having ham hocks for hands. So he describes her as having ham hocks for hands, and then he makes some sort of joke about a brothel. And at this point, there's been quite a few brothel jokes, and so it's getting quite old. And out of context, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I just had it up to here with him, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I thought, if this is what the rest of the book is going to be like, then I don't want it. So I put it down, and then after speaking to everybody at book club, I got FOMO, and I thought, kind of wish that I would have pushed through to the end. But it is a long ass book. It's like 700 pages, and I was on page 200 and something. If 200 pages had been cut out of this book, then I might have pushed through. So I need you guys to tell me if it's worth picking back up again. I've seen this book split a lot of opinion on TikTok, and so I want to know what BookTube think. Is it worth picking this book back up? Did you have similar feelings to me about it? And so that's everything that I have been reading lately and what I'm currently reading. I'm going to get settled now. I'll make a cup of tea and I'll see if I can get Never Lie done. I would really like to get that finished today because I need to start the next book club read, which is Persuasion by Jane Austen, and I'm scared. I am scared of the classics, and I don't know which way that's going to go for me. I really want to give it a fair shot, but I am a very fickle reader, and I will DNF a book without much provocation. So I'm excited to see how I get on with that. I've got a feeling that I have waffled quite a lot there, so if you have gotten this far, then thank you so much for sticking around. I am going to upload weekly, and I'm saying that now as a promise to you. So if it gets to next Sunday and I have not uploaded, then let me know and demand to know where the video is. So I really hope that you can find a cozy corner of the internet here with me. Let me know in the comments what you are currently reading. Let me know your favourite comfort creators on YouTube. And I will see you next week when I will be buying The Lamb by Lucy Rose, which I am so excited for. So have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon.